Hey there, this is Dr. Pam Perry, Speakers Magazine. We have someone that is going to be on our show today that's been featured in Time Magazine. And if you kind of notice my earrings here, they are also someone that he probably knows as well because he was a senior advisor to President Barack Obama. So we have none other than Anton Gunn that'll be joining us in a few minutes right after this. And we'll talk about his career, his new book and his leadership style, and also give some advice to speakers because his website is WHIP. So we'll actually bring him up right after this. Hey there, as promised, I'm bringing to the stage Anton Gunn. How are you, sir? Thank you
I'm,
for joining us.
thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here with you, Dr. Pam. It's a great opportunity. So glad to be here with you.
Well, one of the things, I don't know if you notice these earrings or not. Do you know that
See,
lady?
I know her very well. One of the most beautiful people on planet Earth, and a
Really?
woman that don't take no mess. I can tell you that much.
Right. So I'm from Detroit, but Detroit, these earrings were actually designed by artists in Detroit. And I saw them, I was like, I have got to have these. These are
Yeah.
on both sides, like really, this is the thing. So I want to say, first of all, uh I I know that you had you're a speaker and you're author, but you're also involved in politics. But I want to ask you a little bit about how growing up, what was your interest? If you weren't doing what you're doing now,
Yeah.
what would you have been doing? Like, would you have been in the pros in football? Would you have been a lawyer? What was going on that kind of led you up into this track of where you are now?
So, that's probably the most interesting question to start off this interview with because I never get asked that question. So, if it wasn't for, I'll just rewind the clock and just say it this way. If I was choosing my life at 15 or 16 years old, I would have been a rapper, period.
Okay.
Okay.
Here's some
Um,
awareness. Okay. All
I,
right.
I would 100% because hip hop is who I am. Leadership is what I do. And the reason why I start there and I tell you hip hop is where I got my social conscience. So when you talk about my career in public service and politics and the things that I've done, it's that I was a kid who just had no concept of justice, right or wrong, good or bad, or what I should be doing in this world until I heard Public Enemies, their second album, It Takes a Nations of Millions to Hold Us Back. And Chuck D words lit a fire inside of me. And I
Mhm.
heard him give an interview in 1990 where he said that the interviewer asked him, "Is your goal to go platinum with this second album?" And Chuck said, "No, my goal is not to go platinum. My goal is to create 5,000 new leaders in the Black community." And when
Mm.
he said that, I said, I want to be one of those leaders. So first, I wanted to be a rapper like Chuck D, and then I wanted to just lead wherever I could. And that's the truth, the unadulterated truth. If I could start all over again, I would be on Def Jam Records on my fifth platinum album and doing shows all across the country. And the reality is, as a keynote speaker, the speaking game is just like the rap game anyway. It's the same thing.
It's rhapsody. It's basically it's you're using your words to invoke change or to
Yes,
motivate or to
yes,
inspire. So
yes.
can you actually do a few bars? I mean, I won't put you on the spot or anything like that, but do you ever include that into your speaking? Because some speakers who like Jade Simmons, she's a classical trained pianist, and
Mm-hmm.
so she's a speaker, but she actually ran for president too, is by the way. uh,
Wow.
uh, she uses her piano in her speeches. So, do you
Yeah.
ever do any of your raps in your speech?
So I'll explain it to you this way. If you have Anton Gunn as your keynote speaker, let me tell you what you're going to get. You're going to get hip hop smoothed out on a leadership tip with a corporate feel and a business appeal. So
Ah,
you may not have me spit a lot of bars on stage, but it's going to feel like you're at a show You're going to learn at the same time as you have fun. And I'm going to take you on an emotional roller coaster. So I do infuse some hip hop culture and some music into
Mhm.
my keynote presentations.
Yeah.
But I try to save the rapping for my shower, my bathroom, and on my morning walks when I'm by myself,
Okay.
because I noted that I was a failed rapper, meaning that I wasn't good enough to do all of the things that so many other people do. But I do enjoy it. It's a way that I, just kind of express myself and share. And so I said I'm gonna put an album together and try to produce me an EP at some point, just to say I did it and checked it off in my life. But right now, I try to weave it into my keynote presentation.
All right. So that's good. One of my favorite, I guess he's a rapper. I guess Common is kind of a rapper. I
Oh
guess you would
yes,
call him a rapper.
without a doubt.
Yeah, I like Common. I mean, but then, there's some women,
Yeah.
obviously Mary J, she's R&B, but she does rap as well. So, it is part of what speakers do. And I think having, this is just me, knowing that, have you ever spoken to youth before? Like, are you a
Yeah.
youth speaker? I have found, and I didn't know that for sure because that, it seemed, but I have found that those speakers that speak to youth, they have a different fire. So,
Yes.
Nichols, when she first started out speaking, she was really motivating teens.
Yeah.
Delatoro McNeil, he was speaking to
Yes.
college kids.
Yeah.
Ariel Moody, again, youth. A
Yeah.
lot of the youth speakers, because they have to have, even like youth pastors for that
Yeah.
matter, too.
Yeah.
Pastors, when they're youth pastors, if they ever transition to become a senior pastor, they still have that same fire. So
Yeah.
I can see how you can motivate. I want to show a little bit of your website because I don't know how new it is. How new is this website, Anton?
My website's 4 years old, like 4 or 5 years old.
Oh
Probably
my
need to do a whole new update.
I love it though. I love it. I
Thank you.
actually showed it to my Ready Set Go Speak community and I showed them, I said, this is a website that is right. This is
Thank
one
you.
of the ones you see your speaker.
Mhm.
You're talking about leadership. I love the background. I love the color. I love the teal. I'm actually in
Thank
an
you.
organization called Black Door Society, and our colors are teal as well, and gold and black. So I saw a lot of that on there. But when I'm looking at it, it's very easy to navigate
Thank
and
you.
keynotes that inspire and build. Inspiring leadership speaker Anton Gunn packs this keynote full of valuable insights on leadership for a changing world as a renowned speaker on workplace justice and how to build a culture of resilient leadership and leadership strategies for a diverse workforce. And just looking at it, you've got testimonials, you've done everything right.
Thank
Book
you.
you,
Oh,
you
thank
have
you.
courses, you have even some free resources there. And then, of course, the book that is
Yes.
matching with the brand, Just
Yes.
Lead.
Yes.
So I like it says change with 44 actions to break down barriers, boost employee retention, and build world class culture. So I'm gonna come off of this. So tell us a little bit more about the book. Let's start
Yes.
with this because I think authors should speak and speakers write books, right? So it's
Yes.
all words. It's all words. How long did it take you to do the book? How long was this in the process?
Yeah, so I will tell you the origin story of this book really comes back to my keynote. So I would come off of a stage after delivering an hour keynote for an organization, and I would have people come up to the back of me and ask Anton, everything you said was great, but I'm struggling with this, or I'm struggling with that, or I've been in this situation that you talked about, and I want to know, what would you do? What would you advise me to do? And I started to get this. And when I would do my live on LinkedIn, I would get these in my comments. And so I literally said, okay, I need to put together not a think piece, not a PhD research based think piece. What I need is to give people tangible, actionable things that they can do right away that will transform how they engage their teams, how they show up as a leader, and build a kind of culture where nobody ever wants to quit. And so that's how the book came about. And when you say, how long did it take me? It literally took me a month, 30 days to write this book.
Because it was
And
in
the
your head.
reason why is because I was like, okay, I'm not going to make this a 300-page book or a 500-page book. I want this to be so bite-sized that you can put it in your purse, you can put it in your jacket pocket. If you're wearing a pair of jeans, you can stick it in your back pocket. I also wanted to reduce my carbon footprint because I'm really, conscious of sustainability, and I didn't want a big, thick book. So I can just show you to you right now. You see this, how small it is? It's super thin. It literally is legible. But I'm telling you right here, the content of this book will transform you and your organization tomorrow, not next week, next month, or next year, but something that you can implement tomorrow.
Mhm.
So I wanted to focus on helping leaders. I would get all these questions and they'd be like, well, what do I do, Anton? How do I do it? And my response would be just lead. What your people want from you is you to show up, to care about who they are as a person, help them to be successful, and do that over and over and over again. And over time, they will begin to trust you. And
Mhm.
trust is a cornerstone of being a great leader. And so the book Just Lead, it really is teaching you the fundamentals of how to show people that you care about them. I even break down the 9 reasons why people quit jobs. Most people think they just quit because of money or they get a better opportunity. No, there are 9 reasons why people quit. And pay is probably one of the bottom ones. It's not even the top ones. Is more importantly how you treat them. Do you empower them? Do you equip them with the tools? And do you see them for who they really are and support who they are rather than trying to make them to conform to something that you want them to be? That's the
Mhm.
bottom line of the book.
Yeah, people do quit jobs just because they are not seen. They don't feel like
Correct.
they matter. And and
Correct.
and the main thing, like you said, is to care. So
Yes.
we're talking about books. So I read a little bit in the Time magazine piece of your
Yes.
background there,
Yes.
and you um read a book. Well, you're
Mhm.
walking through the airport. And so let's talk
Mhm.
about this book that you happened to pick up. I think it was called The Audacity of Hope.
Yeah,
So
just a little book that don't
tell
nobody know about.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's only been shown on Oprah, right?
Yeah.
So tell us, and that book is thick. I mean, that was that.
Yeah.
So we're gonna start right there. The book is this thick. So tell us a story about you, in the process of, uh, seeing that book in the airport and where you were at this point in your career.
Yeah, so that's a great place to start. So, for about 10 years, I did community work. So, let's just say from 1996 to 2006, I was serving in my community, trying to help people to get health care, get better jobs. I was a community organizer and activist. But then I caught the bug of politics and I decided to run for office. So, I ran for office in South Carolina. And if I describe my district to you, it would be a place where you wouldn't expect that an African American would have a chance to win. My district was majority white. It was majority middle class. It had never elected an African American in its history, and it hadn't elected a Democrat in 22 years. And everybody told me I was crazy for running, but I ran anyway. And guess what? I lost. But I didn't lose big. I only lost by 298 votes. And
Wow.
so I was like, man, I got real close. So I
Mhm.
happened to be in DC leaving a meeting. I see this book on the shelf, and I had heard these people talking about Barack Obama might run for president, but I didn't know who Barack Obama was. I was like, that name sounds weird. I didn't know who he was, didn't know anything about him. But I saw this book and I picked it up. And when I picked the book up in the airport, I couldn't put it down. It was so engrossing to me in the airport that I literally missed my flight because I was standing in the bookstore reading the book. So I decided to not only buy it, but I bought multiple copies of it because what I read was so powerful. And what it spoke to me, I said to my friends, hey guys, if I was talking like this when I ran for office in 2006, I probably wouldn't have never lost. So
Mhm.
we all need to read this book, learn about this man, learn how he connects people who have come from all different backgrounds and diverse experiences, but unifies them. If I can figure out how to speak like him and lead like him, I know I will win if I run again. And literally, I read that book and ran again 2 years later, and I got elected to the South Carolina House of Representatives, and I won my race by 3,000 votes.
Wow. Oh my god. So the book, when you said one thing you said when you were reading it, it's like he thinks like me. He
Mhm.
has the same philosophy as someone you didn't know. It's like you're reading the book and you can like jump. It's like, yes, yes, yes.
Yes.
That's the
Yeah,
thing.
it's great when you find a book where the author is channeling those thoughts that you have deep inside yourself that you
Mhm.
never really verbalize, and you find yourself saying, "Wow, I thought the exact same thing, but you said it out loud or put it into a book and
Yeah.
sold it to people." And it just connects you and grounds you to that person. And so immediately I was connected and grounded to Barack Obama, and I said, "I got to meet this man. I want to I want him to know me. I need him to know me. I need to be involved in everything that he's doing because this is the kind of leader that I can admire and that many people will admire. And that is how we should all be living our lives and leading in this world.
Hmm. So you read the book
Mhm.
and you didn't know him.
Nope.
And I think you do eventually meet him, or
Yeah.
how did it happen? I mean, so
Great question. So a lot of people ask me this question. They say, Anton, you must have been well connected politically, or you must have knew some folks. You didn't know Barack Obama. How'd you get to Barack Obama? And I
right.
told them, bottom line, I didn't know anybody. I wasn't connected in politics. The only thing I'd done is run for office as a community guy, and I lost. Nobody really knew me. I wasn't well connected. But what I have that most people don't have is the unmitigated gall to work as hard as possible for as long as possible and do the unconventional things to get what I want. And what
Mhm,
did that look like with this? I told my friends that when I brought that book back to them, I said, I'm going to meet Barack Obama. And they
mhm,
literally all laughed at me and said, man, you crazy. The whole world trying to get to Barack Obama. How you going to get to him? I said, I'm going to call him on the phone. And they laughed at me hysterically. And literally the next month in January, I picked up the phone and I called his Senate office in DC.
mhm,
And they said, Senator Barack Obama's office. I said, I want to speak to him. And they said, are you from Illinois? I said, no, I'm from South Carolina. And they told me to call my own senator. And they literally brushed me off the phone. And I called back the next day and the same thing happened. Then I called back the next day and the same thing happened. And I called back the next day and the same thing happened. And then I started to realize they might think I'm crazy, that I'm stalking his office or something. So
mhm,
I said, let me send a constituent email. So I found the constituent email address and I sent this long email and said, hey, I'm Anton Gunn. I'm in South Carolina. I ran for office last year and lost, but you speak like me. You're talking like me. I believe in you. I'm inspired by you. I want to meet you. I want to get to know you. I want to connect with you. So call me back and here's my phone number. And nobody responded to my email. So I called 3 more times to that Senate office and nobody called me back. So 7 phone calls in a week to his office and nobody called me back. And I said, you know what? Maybe I'm calling the wrong place. I'm going to call Chicago. So I
okay,
picked up the
yeah,
phone and I called his Senate office in Chicago.
yes,
Nobody called me back. And I
okay,
called again and nobody called me back. And then this is where it all hit for me. I said, everybody's probably trying to reach him in DC and Chicago because he's at this point one of the most popular senators, and they're talking about he might run for president. And I
mhm,
said, but where would his phone never be ringing? So I looked at the map of Illinois and saw that in Springfield, which is downstate Illinois, is the heavy Republican part of the state. So I assumed that they probably not calling his phone because they don't want to mess with a Democratic senator. So I called his office in downstate Illinois, but I called it with an attitude, frustrated that nobody called me back. So when I
mhm,
called the office, some woman answered the phone and I said, who is this? And she gave me her name. And I said, ma'am, you don't know me, but you need to know me. My name is Anton Gunn, and I live in South Carolina. And I've called Barack Obama's office 10 times and nobody has called me back. And I heard that there's going to be an early primary in South Carolina that Barack Obama needs a campaign here. And if he think he can blow people off in South Carolina and not call him back and think he's going to win, I'm going to make sure he loses. So write my phone number down. And I gave out my cell phone number. Write it down. He better call me back or I'm going to make sure he loses. And I hung up the phone because at that point in time, I ain't got nothing to lose. I mean,
yeah, it's no
I've
getting no
called,
calls anyway,
yeah,
right,
they
right,
call me, ain't call me back yet, right? So I get up from my desk. I go to the water fountain to fill up my water bottle. And I come back to my desk and I look down at my BlackBerry. I had an old BlackBerry at the time.
yeah,
And
he
my
did too,
light was blinking. And I looked at the number and it said unknown number. So I called the voicemail to listen to my voicemail because somebody left me a message. And the voicemail said, Anton, this is U.S. Senator Barack Obama from Illinois. I can't wait to meet you. Can't wait to get to know you. We got all your messages and emails. So call me back when you get a shot. 312-282. Can't give you the rest of the number.
right. Oh
So
my God, and
I
that was the
called him
beginning
right
of it.
back. And
Yes,
that was the beginning of me, him and I having a phone conversation. 2 weeks later, I was riding in the car with him, telling him how I could help him if he was going to run for president. And he believed me and never saw a resume, didn't see a job description,
right,
but we connected on an emotional level. And I was the first person he hired in South Carolina to help his nascent presidential campaign.
And he did. And he did. And so what happened there? They
Next
came
thing I
out.
know, I was all in, setting up a campaign office and picking him up in my car to take him to his first event in South Carolina. And then that's when he was a candidate, but he
Mhm.
wasn't the
Right.
most popular one. Everybody was
Right.
still thinking Hillary Clinton was going to become the nominee. And so
Mhm.
Barack Obama was 30 points down. He had no Secret Service protection. I mean, literally, I picked him up in my Chrysler Pacifica, put my daughter's car seat in the back, and swept the Cheerios out of the seat. And he sat in the car and drove him to the Marriott Hotel, where I had to beg 6 people to come and meet with him because they were all like, "No, he's
Who
a
was it?
nice guy and young guy, but we're gonna stick with John Edwards or Hillary Clinton." So I had to
Mhm.
beg people to come meet with him, and I told him, "Don't let your loyalty to the past blind you to the future that's right in front of you." And
Mhm.
they were blind to Barack Obama's future, and but I was clear as a bell about it, and the rest is kind of history.
Yeah, because you read the book, you kind of felt that. I don't know if this is because you've been around him as a senior advisor, but your voice has the same tonality.
So
You've been told that.
the
Yeah.
small thing that I will say about that is a part of I was an informal advisor on the Affordable Care Act. So I worked at HHS to help the Affordable Care Act. But a part of that came a lot of meetings with the president. And it would come after he would give a presentation about the healthcare law and talk about things. And if things didn't sound good, I would advise him on how to say it differently or what words to use. So
Mhm.
I tell people I gave Barack Obama words that work, not words that hurt. And so sometimes it would have to be me sharing with him in a cadence on how I wanted him to hit the punchline. So if I would equate it back to hip hop, you got some great rappers who rap real well, but sometimes they don't hit the punchline the right way. So they need somebody to help them to deliver the punchline for the desired effect. And so I was able to help him with some words that work. And so sometimes it meant understanding his cadence and trying to give him a
Yeah,
reference point for how he should deliver a line.
I hear it. I hear it. So a lot of the community organizing that you were doing, after you finish your football career,
Yeah.
and I think one of the things you could have did a lot of things like you said, you could have been a rapper, but there was something that happened with your brother. He was in the
Yeah.
Navy, and
Yes.
this was before 9/11, right?
Yes.
So tell us about that situation, how that was a pivot in your in your career, in your life, so to
Yes.
speak.
So that's a great question. All of us have moments in our life that, I think Mark Twain says, all of us have two important dates in our life: the day that we're born and the day that we find out why. And the day that I found out why was October 12, 2000.
Mhm.
That's the day when my younger brother, I'm the oldest of 4 boys. My brother Sharon was 5 years younger than me.
Oh, okay.
He joined the Navy like my father. I come from a long family of military men, great grandfather, both World Wars, grandfather, World War II. My dad and all of his uncles served, and my brother joined the Navy. And
Mhm.
on October 12, 2000, aboard the USS Cole, my brother was killed by 2 Al Qaeda suicide bombers when they pulled a small boat alongside his big Navy destroyer ship with 1,000 pounds of C4 explosive, and they detonated themselves, killing themselves and blasting a 40 by 40-foot hole in the side of the ship. And it
Mhm.
killed 17 sailors and injured 39. And my brother was one of the 17. And I was emotionally devastated by that because I had no idea, why somebody would want to do something like that. And these were Al Qaeda, Osama bin Laden. Most of the world
Right.
didn't know who Osama bin Laden was.
Not in
Or 9
2000.
9/11 hadn't happened for another
Right.
year. But yet my family was thrown right in the middle of understanding world affairs, terrorism, the Middle East, Afghanistan, the Iraq war, all of these different things before they were things.
Mhm.
And I was angry that I had 3 generations of my men in my family who served in combat and they all came home safely. Yet my brother, who joined the Navy in peacetime, I mean, there was nothing bad about the year
Yeah.
2000. I mean,
Right.
we had survived in Y2K at the end of 99, and
Right. Right.
2000 was a good year. The only thing bad about 2000 was Puff Daddy came out with the worst album of all time in 2000. But other than that, it was a good year. But at the end of that year, my brother loses his life in a terrorist attack, and I never could understand why. And at the time, the Navy, the military, even the White House wouldn't give us a straight answer. And I was bothered by that. They just couldn't be honest and authentic and transparent around what went into the decision making that put my brother and his ship in harm's way to allow something like this to happen. And we
Mhm.
felt like it was an injustice. And let me tell you why I say injustice. Because as I'm talking to you today, it has been 24 years since my brother was killed. And you
Mhm.
know, the United States military never responded to the attack on the USS Cole. So our military ship was attacked by foreign agents in a foreign port, and we never responded, not one time. We didn't shoot a single missile or bullet or
Mhm.
hold a single person accountable. And I will tell you that was a big injustice. And
Mhm.
I despise injustice. I've always felt like I don't like it when people get mistreated. That's why I became a community organizer, because when people don't have health care in this great country, I think it's wrong. But
Mhm.
this was an injustice that hit me to the core, hit my family to the core. And so, therefore, I began this crusade, if you call it, that when things go wrong, and they always will. I mean, losing my brother is wrong. Getting fired from a job is wrong, or getting passed over for a promotion is wrong, or maybe getting mistreated because of your race, ethnicity, gender identity. It's all wrong.
Mhm.
But a leader's greatest responsibility is to do something to make it right.
Mhm.
And you may not be able to do everything, but you can do something to make it right. And that became my mantra and my mission as a leader, is to identify where the wrongs that exist in the world and in corporate America and in business, and show leaders what they can do to make it right. Because when they make it right, you inspire people, you empower people, you motivate people, you help people to want to be better than themselves. And
Mhm.
that's what Barack Obama did as president, that he literally saw what was wrong in healthcare and said, I know it's been 100 years. I know every other president before me, going all the way back to 1908, tried to do something, but never made it right. But I believe that I can do big things and do something to make it right. And lo and behold, we brought healthcare now to more than 50 million Americans who couldn't access it before. And
Mhm.
that is the evidence of something was wrong, but you can do something to make it right.
And that was the fire uh, that really kinda set you on this path of
Yes.
really doing the work that you're doing now. And
Amen.
so some of the places where you speak and you inspire, I think you spoke at NSA before too. Have you spoken at NSA, the National Speakers Association, before?
Yeah, so I did a virtual program before the winter conference of 2020. It was really in the middle of the pandemic. So we weren't in a room together. I just got a chance to be able to deliver something virtually to the group. It's in the NSA vault. So if you're a member of the National Speakers Association, you can go to the vault and check out my presentation, and where I share some details about how I built my career as a speaker and how I use
Mhm.
relationships to identify keynote opportunities, and how serving in your local community can become keynote opportunities for you by building relationships with decision makers who will need speakers for events. And so, yeah, I did speak there.
Mhm.
I speak all over the country. I've spoken, in places like Israel and South Africa and Canada. I've been a lot of places, and virtually, I literally have been on every continent with some of
Mhm.
my clients. So, very glad to have had tremendous opportunities to impact audiences.
So the we talk a lot about, and we have a few minutes left, but the main passion I see you talk about right now is workplace culture.
Yes.
Uh, that is important to you because why? What is it that you see? You see maybe your generation doing the quiet quitting? Do
Yeah.
you see what is it that really fires you up to want to speak to the Fortune 500 or Fortune 10, about
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
culture?
Yeah. So the first thing that I would tell you is that we're all best positioned to be the person that we once were. And when I played college football, I was in a toxic culture. We didn't win a whole lot. I experienced a lot of mistreatment, and it made me disengage. It made me really just kind of mentally give up on football. But I knew I couldn't quit because I needed my scholarship, right? But I became what I call a 859er. An 859 is a person who shows up in the morning at 8:59
Oh, okay.
and they do the bare minimum starting at 9 o'clock. And
Hmm.
they're gonna do the bare minimum all day. And then at 4:59, they're gonna leave and they're gonna get in the car and they're gonna drive home. They're not gonna do a thing more or a thing less. That's how it was
8:59.
in college.
Hmm.
Well, for most of us in the workplace, we all have been an 8:59er at one job or another.
Hmm.
That we had a leader who didn't value us, didn't respect us, and didn't treat us well. Or we had this mindset that our company doesn't care about people like us, that they want to work us to death, make as much money, and don't care about us. And what I saw during the pandemic is that the American workforce had an awakening to realize that these companies don't care about us, that they will squeeze every drop out of us and not give us personal protection equipment, make us come to work even though our kids' school are closed and
Yeah.
I can't get to work. So, I want to quit. And they'll either quiet quit or just disengage, or there are people who commit what I call counterproductive workplace behaviors. They'll literally do things like sabotage their job. They will
Mhm.
get into fights at work. They will, do all kinds of other things that are hurting us. And in my opinion, it's making our democracy fracture because of how people get treated at work. I mean, think about it. Most Americans spend a third of their lives with people they
Sure.
don't love, who they didn't marry, and they only go there because they get a paycheck. A third of your life.
Right.
And so, and third of your waking hour, I mean, half of your waking hours, right? So I got into this because I believe that people deserve dignity and respect at work. And every company wants to thrive with a great culture, but
Yeah.
most people don't know how to build that culture. And so I did some research. I have a national research study called The State of Workplace Injustice. And you
Mm.
can go to workplaceinjusticereport.com and get it. And you can see that of the on nearly 700 people we surveyed, here's what they told us: 66% of employees experienced injustice in the last year, and 23% experience it every month. That people are crying out about they're being ostracized, they're being abused, they're being harassed, they're being bullied at work. And then when they report it, 92% of our survey respondents told us that they reported.
The
Only
leaders.
17% of companies did something about it.
Mm.
So
Mm.
these are people who are saying that when I report that I'm being mistreated at work and they don't do anything about it, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm either gonna quit, or I'm going to disengage. Or some
Mhm.
people say, I can't afford to quit right now, but I'm gonna make sure this place ain't successful. So I'm gonna sabotage. I'm just not gonna
Yeah.
do the things I'm supposed to do. And there's
Mm.
an economic and a social impact. The social
Yeah.
impact is that we're fracturing our psychology, and people are just getting in
Regret.
depression around that, right? But
Yeah.
the economic impact is that that level of disengagement is costing American employers $777.9 billion dollars a year. And
Mm.
the turnover cost is costing another $136 billion dollars a year. So when you add these numbers up, we're talking almost $1 trillion of economic impact that's lost to companies because of how people are being treated at work. And I want to help every leader build a world class workplace culture where
Mhm.
they have become the leader that everybody will admire, the same way I admire Barack Obama, the same way
Mhm.
you admire Michelle Obama, because there are
Mhm.
people who show you that they care about the people that they lead, and that they're
Mhm.
willing to always be honorable and respectful and build a kind of light that attracts people. And most
Mhm.
importantly, they empower people to be successful in their own right. And that's what my keynotes are about: is how do you become that leader? How you build a culture that empowers everybody and lead people better than you found them, because every leader should be doing that. They should lead people better than they found them. But most of us don't know how to do it. And that's why we have these challenges in our workplace culture.
That is, and people should. The name of your book, I'll hold it up again, is called Just Lead.
That's
Just
correct.
lead.
Just
That is
lead.
it. Just lead. And
That's
and
the
I
message.
think people really don't know how to do that. They may bully, they may police, they may threaten.
Yeah.
There's all kind of things, but the bottom line is that you really have to treat people right, and people don't know where to start.
Yes.
You have the cross generations, you have the baby boomers still working down to the Gen Z. So
Yeah.
if you have a baby boomer and a Gen Z, or what if a Gen
Alpha.
Y
Alpha. Yeah. Gen
is
Alpha is
over
next.
is
yeah,
over a Gen X, or
yeah,
or God forbid a Gen Y is over a Gen X, right?
yeah,
You got two
yeah,
different cultures and they're the boss over that person. It's just it can be
yeah.
intergenerational, different cultures, different sexual orientations.
Hmm.
There's a lot of different things in there, and people are trying to just treat everybody the same and not really understand. So the work that you're doing right now is really like for such a time as this. I can't
Yeah.
imagine what you would be doing. I mean, I guess you could be a rapper, and I'd be buying your records and that kind of thing. But I think the work that you're doing right now is a lot more important for
Yeah.
us right now. And the things that you've done, I didn't really go into a lot of it, but I want people to get the book, but also
Yeah.
how can they connect with you more and to learn more about you, and to book you to speak. That's one of the
Yeah.
main things, to book you
Yeah.
to speak,
So if you want
workshop
to connect with me,
virtually.
yeah,
Mhm.
the easiest way to place to go is the antongunn.com. You showed the website. If you want to connect with me, contact me, go right to my contact page. I got plenty of free resources.
You
And
do.
for everybody, for all of your viewers and listeners, I want to give them something that's going to add immediate value to them. I got a free toolkit that's called the Just Lead Toolkit. I want you to buy the book, but if you want some free resources attached to it, go to antongunn.com/toolkit and you give me your email address. I will send you 3 free resources. One, it's an ebook that I put together of the
Okay.
10 qualities that I researched from some of the world's most admired leaders, people like Barack Obama, Oprah, Nelson Mandela, Dr. Martin
Mhm.
Luther King Jr., Mother Teresa, and Gandhi. Very simple tools
Mhm.
that you can use to help you to model your leadership behaviors. And then I
Mhm.
also give you the notes from my keynote presentations. I really believe that I want to teach always, whether I'm on a stage in front of you or not. I'll give you those resources. And then the last thing you get is that I have a 52-week leadership learning series that teaches you some fundamental leadership principles that you can implement. So it's all right there for you. Go to antongunn.com/toolkit. And I
Okay.
want to help you to be successful. You can get it.
Oh, good. I love that. I love that. I'm going to put that in the notes as well, but antongunn.com/toolkit, and the 52 weeks, so that over time the changes are made incrementally, but over 52 weeks, it's a transformation. So I
That's
love
right.
that. I love that.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
Anton, thank you so much for joining Speakers Magazine. I have been watching you for a long, long time, and I said I want to get you on the show, and you have surpassed what I thought you would be doing. So thank you so
Well,
much
thank
for
you.
joining us today. Thank you for
Thank you.
joining
Thank you
us.
for having me.
All right. And I want to have you come back too on our Amazon Live show, but we'll talk about that later because I want to make sure that you do that as well. So thank you.
Fantastic. Let's do it. Thank you.
Yes, yes. All righty. Take care.
Bye bye.